It's been an offseason unlike any other. Despite the challenges that face our country, Howie Roseman and his staff forged ahead with the task of building a championship-caliber roster, preparing for the day when we can once again cheer our Eagles on to victory. The Eagles have made some difficult decisions, saying goodbye to players who helped bring home the first Super Bowl in franchise history. But the goal is another parade down Broad Street, and the past month has been fruitful with the remaking of a defense infused with tone setters up front and playmakers on the back end. With an already improved roster, the Eagles are poised to fortify it with 8 draft picks. The first Lombardi Trophy is covered with fingerprints of the franchise-altering players who were chosen in past draft classes. For the Eagles to once again reach the mountaintop, the foundation must be built in one of the most important weekends of the entire year. Though the doors to the NovaCare complex may be closed for business, the NFL is open for the 2020 NFL Draft. The next step on the quest for greatness starts tonight.
The 2020 NFL Draft is happening, and it is here, and it is a draft that's going to be unlike any other. Commissioner Roger Goodell will be announcing the picks from his home. Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman will be in their homes. We are in our homes, bringing you this show into your home. Welcome to Eagles Draft Central, presented by Dietz and Watson. Amy Campbell, joined as always by Fran Duffy. And Fran, I think Howie Roseman offered some incredible perspective when he said, look, people are going through a really hard time with this virus. It's our job to do a great draft for them. And of course, we also want to extend our deepest gratitude to all of the healthcare workers, the teachers, the food delivery people, the couriers, all of you on the front lines of this. Our hearts are with you there as well. So now, Fran, as we turn to this draft, like how we said, let's give the people a good distraction.
I'm excited just to bring a good show to everybody. This is going to be a really fun weekend. Obviously, a lot different than anything we've ever done before, anything we've ever seen before, but not going to stop us. It's going to be a fun weekend.
Of course, nothing's going to stop us. All right, speaking of the weekend ahead, let me break down for you some of the stuff we have for you. Tonight is going to be a great night. Around Pick 10, we will be going live to answer your questions on Facebook, so be sure to join us there. Pick 10, send in your questions. The Eagles pick is at 21 in round 1 if that's where they decide to stay. And as soon as the pick is announced, we will be on here to bring you instant analysis that you won't get anywhere else. But it won't stop there for tonight. We will be having coverage for you all week long. Before each night, we will be doing a live show 30 minutes before the draft gets going. Each day, we will be giving you that instant analysis. We will have Eagles-specific coverage throughout the weekend. And of course, as soon as the pick is made, we will be here for instant analysis. And you'll be getting your press conferences from Howie Roseman, Doug Peterson, Andy Weidel. It'll all be right here. So we will carry everything for you live. All right, let's take a look at the Eagles picks. As it stands right now, they have 8 picks in the 2020 draft. We mentioned the first round, number 21 overall. On day 2, rounds 2 and 3, number 53 and number 103. Now it gets really interesting here in round 4 because there are several picks close together, 127, 145, and 146. And then in rounds 5 and 6, 168 and 190. So that's where it stands today. But if history has taught us anything, all of that could change by the time we reach the end of the day on day 3. And with that, we are now going to turn to Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, who is kind enough to bring us into his home as well. Dave, what kind of exclusive content are you going to be bringing the people throughout this draft week?
Amy, in addition to hearing from Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman and Andy Weidel, we'll talk to people from within the organization who've had an impact here, who've had their voices heard in the 2020 NFL draft process. Ian Cunningham, the Assistant Director of Player Personnel, one of those who will be joining us during the course of the weekend. And then we're going to give you a chance to meet the newest Eagles right here after the picks are made. We'll track them down. We'll get them here. We'll take you inside their homes and find out what this draft has been like for them and how they feel about being Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, Dave, ever since we've been home, since this pandemic has started, you've been just grinding away. I mean, almost daily, Eagles Insider podcast, phenomenal access with players and coaches, front office. So I want to take us inside the home of the Insider here. What is your setup? What do you have for us this weekend at home?
Well, I'm in my condominium here in the Fairmount section of Philadelphia in my living room. I've been stationed here, have a really beautiful setup thanks to David Sullivan with the Eagles. The entire Eagles organization has been really great about this. So I feel comfortable, I'm safe, I'm excited to see what the Eagles do with these 8 draft picks throughout the weekend, and can't wait to get it started. But I'm going to be here watching like everyone else, watching you guys, and certainly tuning into Facebook.
Well, Dave, bringing a new meaning to the Eagles Insider, being able to hunt down prospects when you're not even going to be leaving your home. I am so excited to see what you bring us this weekend. Thanks so much for joining us. All right, and of course, you can find all of Dave's exclusive interviews on PhiladelphiaEagles.com, the Eagles mobile app, and all of our social channels, one of which we are about to give you a little taste of right now. Dave caught up with Howie Roseman, our GM, to hear what this is going to be like for him this week.
Howie, what has it been like? What will it be like for these 7 rounds and the post-draft period by yourself, not surrounded by your group at the NovaCare complex?
Well, you know, Dave, I feel like I've been around the draft and in the draft process for a long period of time. I feel like I've gotten all the information at my disposal. My biggest job is to make decisions, is to gather all the information and make decisions. And, you know, I say that with full confidence that we'll be able to execute and make decisions. This isn't the first time we've gone through this process together as a group. And, you know, I have no doubt that we'll be able to execute what our plan is, and to the extent that we would if we were in the NovaCare Center, the NovaCare complex. And obviously, you know, for me, the biggest difference is just having people you care about around, like you and your crew, and having the fun. That's a great part of being involved with a team, is that team aspect. And, you know, in terms of an execution process perspective, I don't anticipate any problems in terms of just missing the camaraderie and the energy that we have when we do this. Yeah, I think that would be the hardest part of it.
And of course, Howie continues to express that confidence, but it will be sad to not be in the room with all the people that you're used to being in the room with. And Andy Weidel, one of those guys who's been in that room since he started with the Eagles in 2016, but has a different role this year as the VP of Player Personnel and his first draft in that role. Now, he's been with the team since 2016, but he started his career as an intern with the Pittsburgh Steelers, working his way up from the bottom. He was the guy picking up the prospects from the airport and driving them to the complex for their visits during this draft, and worked his way up the scouting pipeline to this role now, where he's so excited for his first draft as the Eagles VP of Player Personnel. And Dave Spadaro caught up with Andy in advance of this draft.
When this is all said and done and we're sitting back looking at the collective, you know, new players, this group that comes in, what will constitute in your mind a successful draft weekend for the Philadelphia Eagles?
You know, hopefully we'll be in Tampa with the confetti falling on us in February. You know, that's our goal every year. And to bring a class in, guys that can contribute for years to come. You know, that's what's great here, is that our goal here is winning championships. And that's across the board. And it's exciting. So we want guys that are going to come in and contribute, hit the ground running. Every player has a different path. You know, every guy has a different story. Some guys come in immediately and they hit the ground and they go and they play year one. Some guys, it takes, maybe they're playing special teams, they work their way into a starting role in year 2 or year 3. Some guys have just become really good backups and special teams players. So we're trying to get as many players in here that are our Eagle type of players and Eagle type of people. And I think that's the goal. But, you know, we're a championship team, and we want to win championships. We tasted it in 2017, and we're hungry to get back there.
And for the full interview with Dave Spadaro and Andy Weidel, you can, of course, check out PhiladelphiaEagles.com, our mobile app, all of our social channels where all the exclusive content will be throughout the draft process. We're going to take a quick break, but on the other side, Eagles preseason analyst Ross Tucker will be joining us to break down some of the names that you need to know. Who are the most intriguing prospects to keep your eye on tonight? We will have more for you on the other side of this break.
Hi, it's Jan from Toyota. As part of your community, we're here to help you during these challenging times.
Keeping your Toyota safe and reliable is essential, especially right now. That's why many of our Toyota service centers are open for your vehicle needs. So you can schedule service online and drop off and pick up your vehicle with no contact for your peace of mind.
We're here for you. Contact your local Toyota dealer to see how they can help. Toyota.
Hey, welcome back to Eagles Draft Central, presented by Dietz and Watson, as we count down to the start of day one of the 2020 draft. And we are now joined by Eagles preseason analyst Ross Tucker. And Ross, we're going to talk about some prospects that intrigue us in this draft. And since the Eagles did so much addressing to the defensive side of the ball in free agency, haven't yet addressed the offensive side. Let's start with some offensive players who you think could be a potential fit for this team.
Well, and Amy, I think we have to start with LSU wide receiver Justin Jefferson. If you've been reading the mock drafts, and I think everybody watching has been, he has been the most consistently mocked player to the Philadelphia Eagles. And if that happens tonight, we will be absolutely thrilled, because for a long part of this pre-draft process, people would talk about the big three: Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Henry Ruggs. More recently, though, it's the big four, and they are including Jefferson among those other three guys, and I think for good reason. He had a ridiculous year for LSU a year ago in terms of production. The only real concern for him at 6'1", 205 was his speed. Well, then he went to the combine and ran a 4.4 and totally answered that question. So there really aren't any questions. I mean, you can say, well, is he an outside receiver? Is he a slot receiver? I would tell you he's both. Terrific route runner, good after the catch, and seems like a guy who's ready to play right away.
And here's what I love about Justin Jefferson, Ross, is that if you were to stack him up against these other big three receivers, right, he's maybe not quite as good a route runner as Jerry Jeudy, maybe not quite as fast as Henry Ruggs, not quite the beast at the catch point that CeeDee Lamb is, but you would make the argument that he's second on that group of four in all three of those categories. So just a very well-rounded player. I think he brings a lot to the table. Whoever gets him tonight is going to be very, very lucky. He's a really good player.
Yeah, I love the versatility with him, and I think his consistent route running is what makes him a really safe pick and should be a good contributor at the next level. Fran, let's go with you. Who's the guy you're really interested in tonight?
Yeah, to me, I look at Brandon Iuka, out in the desert for Arizona State. And, Justin Jefferson, throughout the course of the process, has been a very popular pick for mock drafts for the Eagles. Well, if you go back to the fall, Brandon Iuka was one of the players that was consistently mocked to this Eagles football team. And when you go a little bit later now, right in the last week and a half, 2 weeks or so, it seems like that's catching a little bit more buzz. You look at Brandon Iuka, he is electric with the ball in his hands. I love watching this kid after the catch. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's dealing with a little bit of an injury right now, so he couldn't go through a full combine workout. We didn't see him at the Senior Bowl, so the buzz kind of died on him a little bit. But make no mistake, this guy is really, really fun to watch. Played out there just this past season as a starter for Herm Edwards, was a backup last year to N'Keal Harry. But this is a guy that's so much fun to watch with the ball in his hands. I'm really, really excited about what this kid could be at the next level. Not quite as refined as some of these other guys, but a really fun player to watch.
Yeah, and I love the upside, Fran. He's a high school running back, and you can see that when he gets the ball in his hands in the open field, the slants, the underneath wide receiver screens. He has those type of run after catch ability. And then you think about special teams, punt returner, kick returner. That's added value there that the Eagles could absolutely use. And let's not forget, the Patriots took an Arizona State wide receiver in the first round a year ago in N'Keal Harry. Everybody, and I mean everybody, agrees that Iuka is better.
Yeah, I think Iuka is really a receiver who can bring the spark. And since so many fans and so many analysts are convinced that the Eagles are going to take a receiver, I'm going to talk about a receiver who can also bring the spark. Henry Ruggs III from Alabama. This is the fastest guy in this class. Ran the fastest 40 at the combine, 4.27, but is so much more than just a speed player. His toughness is what really makes him stand out to me. You don't always see these speed guys with this tough mentality like Ruggs has. This is an alpha on a team full of alphas with great hands, dropped just one pass for all of last year. A high energy player who's going to be a matchup nightmare at the next level. I think a young receiver who could really build, you could really build an offense around at the next level.
Amy, it's a terrific point. When I'm bored, I watch Henry Ruggs basketball highlights. His dunks are ridiculous. He's not just fast. He's explosive in every way. I love that you mentioned his toughness because he can run through tacklers. He's willing to block, do all the little dirty things that you need. And what we saw from the Chiefs in the Super Bowl is that speed kills. The Eagles would love to get Henry Ruggs speed.
And you guys know I'm grinding through the tape. I'm watching film of all these guys. Two plays stand out with Henry Ruggs' toughness. One, last season as a junior or as a sophomore, he was able to run downfield and picked up a fumble from his teammate Irv Smith Jr., chased it from behind and picked up the fumble, ran it in for a touchdown. And then this past season, as a junior, there was an interception. He was on the backside. He chased down the defender 70, 80 yards downfield and made the tackle. That kind of toughness, that kind of competitiveness, not those plays in a vacuum, but it kind of speaks to the kind of player and person you're getting in Henry Ruggs.
All right, so we've looked at three wide receivers, and as Andy Weidel mentioned earlier this week, different flavors of receiver in this draft. Ross, do you have one more for us?
Yeah, and I think this would be more of a trade down candidate for the Eagles if they end up trading down in round one, maybe even to round two. Maybe they trade up in round two, and it's KJ Hamler from Penn State. I've watched every snap of his college career, and he is about as dynamic of a player as there's been in college football the last 2 years. Not only is he lightning fast, but it's his quickness. I mean, Amy, you probably could, but there is no chance Fran and I would even be able to get a hand on him in two-hand touch in a phone booth. I mean, the way he's able to make people miss in short areas, I've almost never seen it before. He reminds me a little bit, I don't want to get overboard here, but he reminds me a little bit in some ways of Deshaun Jackson, that same slight frame, but big playability.
He's lightning in a bottle, right? I mean, I go back to his sophomore year last year, 2 years ago now, where he catches that quick slant, 87 yards to the house against Ohio State, had one of the fastest defenses in all of college football. That was kind of the welcome party from a national standpoint for KJ Hamler. This guy's one of those dynamic players in the draft.
Another dynamic receiver. So many of these guys have been so fun to watch and are going to be so much fun to watch at the next level. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to be breaking down some names that you're going to want to know on the defensive side of the ball, so stay with us.
to see how they can help. Toyota.
As you prepare to watch your Eagles in the 2020 NFL Draft, visit budlight.com/open for takeout to see which bars and restaurants near you are open for takeout and delivery. Now, more than ever, we need to serve those who serve us. And thanks for hanging with us here on Eagles Draft Central, presented by Dietz and Watson. We just broke down some of the big offensive names to know in tonight's draft, and we are going to talk about some of the defensive prospects that are intriguing to us as well. So, Ross, we'll start with you again. Who is a defensive prospect that you are really excited to see what happens?
Oh, that's linebacker Kenneth Murray from Oklahoma. I love this guy. I mean, I have a borderline man crush on Murray. If you watch an Oklahoma game the last couple of years, he is an absolute tackling machine. He's like a heat-seeking missile. It's crazy how fast he is. For 241 pounds, he has Pro Bowl linebacker and team leader written all over him. His character's off the charts. I encourage you to read the story, the background with having 3 special needs siblings and everything he's done for them. And I know historically the Eagles haven't taken linebackers in the first round, but you know, some of the best teams the Eagles have had, they've been led on defense by linebackers. Guys like Jeremiah Trotter, even the Super Bowl a few years ago, Nigel Bradham was playing at a very high level that year. I think Kenneth Murray could be that guy, the leader of the defense, in the middle of the defense for the Birds for a long time.
Certainly has been a very popular pick amongst mock drafters throughout the course of this process, especially over the last month or so. I think you pencil in Kenneth Murray as one of the more popular picks for the Eagles in these mock drafts. But one of the things that stands out to me, and the background is outstanding, Ross. You mentioned everything with his family and everything with this kid's upbringing, just really, really impressive off the field. But how about the fact that he goes to Norman, Oklahoma, steps on the field as a true freshman, 17 years old, and he's calling the signals for the Big 12 champs. Like, this is a guy that has been given the reins to that defense from day one and never blinked. He's one of the toughest guys in this draft. I love watching his kids play. He's one of those sideline to sideline heat-seeking missiles, just like you said. Just a really fun player to watch, and obviously a guy you can root for as well.
Yeah, look, it is easy to talk about Kenneth Murray. Nobody has a bad thing to say about this guy on the field, off the field, his potential at the next level. You talk about a leader, a guy who's going to be Pro Bowl potential, a longtime starter in the middle of a defense, absolute difference maker written all over him. All right, Fran, who's the guy that you're excited about?
I'm going to stay in the Big 12, and I'm going to go to TCU and cornerback Jeff Gladney. Now, a little bit undersized. He's 5'10", just around 190 pounds. But this guy's like a souped-up Avonte Maddox. You talk about his competitiveness, his quickness. He's got the ability to match up in man-to-man coverage at a really high level. But I just love how fiery this guy is, how tough he is. And to me, that speaks really well to being able to play corner in the NFL. Whether that's inside or outside, I think he can do both. I do think he can win on the outside. There are plenty of corners with his height that have a lot of success out in the boundary. I look at him and some of the matchups he's had against some of the biggest receivers in this draft. You look at Denzel Mims from Baylor. You look at Colin Johnson from Texas. This guy did not blink. I love watching this kid on film. Extremely productive as well. A ton of interceptions and pass breakups over his career as a 4-year starter. Jeff Gladney, to me, one of the more underrated players in this class.
Fran, you used the word fiery. I'll use the word feisty. He is fun to watch. He would immediately become a fan favorite among Eagles fans because these are the type of guys that Eagles fans love. He is getting after it. He's going to let you know about it. And for 5'10", $190, he's going to hit you too. I mean, there's some other corners in this draft. They don't want to tackle anybody. That's not Gladney. 146 tackles to go along with the ball production with interceptions and 37 pass deflections. Unbelievably productive. Love this player if the Eagles were able to get him.
Well, I was going to say feisty, I was going to say fiery, so I'm going to say scrappy. How about that? Which is of something you love to see in a guy who plays this position. So much fun to watch. You love that energy. You love that toughness. Just a true competitor and somebody for people to be really excited about. All right, I am, as a Gator, I'm sad to say I'm going back to Alabama, but I'm a huge fan of Xavier McKinney, the safety from Alabama, who I think is going to be a can't-miss safety at the next level. And what I love about him is his versatility. When you talk about the evolution of that safety position, he's also played some of that nickel linebacker, really versatile and can do a lot of things from there. Also a physical tackler, really tough. When you talk again about that evolution of the safety, and if you think about what we saw Malcolm Jenkins do for the Eagles last year, I think we could see Xavier McKinney kind of doing a similar role at the next level.
Amy, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say Malcolm Jenkins. There's a lot of similarities there. And look, it's tough to compare a college kid to Malcolm Jenkins, but I mean, in terms of the different roles that he could play, he could cover the slot. He could be the deep middle of the field safety. He's obviously very comfortable in the box. You mentioned the fact that he could be a nickel linebacker. Jim Schwartz would love to have a guy that can fulfill that many roles so that if there is an injury or if there is an issue, Xavier McKinney is a guy that they could immediately plug in there. And Saban has said he's also one of the smartest players he's ever coached.
Yeah, he's known for his football IQ and just how reliable and tough he is as a tackler. You go back to that LSU game, was extremely productive, and he played linebacker in that game. Make no mistake, he was not playing as a down player. He wasn't playing in the slot or deep. He was a linebacker in that game. They had a bunch of injuries, Alabama, as they prepared to take on the eventual national champs, and he had to match up one-on-one with Clyde Edwards-Helaire a number of times. And I think when you look at Xavier McKinney, he certainly brings that versatility. He brings that toughness. If you're going to talk about, is he a home run? I don't know if he's a home run, but this guy's a ground roll double. You know what you're getting in Xavier McKinney.
All right, Ross, let's get one more defensive prospect that intrigues you.
Well, I'm going to go to Alabama again, Amy, just to make you feel bad as a former Florida Gator. And I'm going to go to Trayvon Diggs. I mean, look at his size. He's all of 6'1", 205 pounds. He was a receiver like his brother, Stephon Diggs, his first year at Alabama, which is why I love Stephon Diggs. And I love his brother, Trayvon Diggs, because here's the deal. When you switch positions, that's not easy. I can speak to that. I was a defensive end as a freshman in college before I moved to offensive line, and I struggled as a sophomore, had to get a little bit better as a junior, and then was much better as a senior. That is the path that Trayvon Diggs is on right now. He hasn't played the position that long, but he has ideal size, obviously has the skills and the body control in the hands as a former receiver, and he just keeps getting better.
Length, ball skills, toughness, versatility, potentially could be a safety down the road. Trayvon Diggs, he's one of my personal favorites in this class. He reminds me of Xavier Rhodes in his prime coming out of Florida State.
Yeah, I think when you talk about the athleticism and the potential to develop as he get reps, I think there's a lot to be excited about with him. All right, Ross, thank you so much for joining us. We will be checking in with you throughout the weekend, and we are going to take a quick break here on Eagles Draft Central, so we will see you in a minute. Eagles Draft Central presented by Dietz & Watson, proud partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, and we're just moments away from the start of the draft, but Fran, I do want to get into the point that, especially given all that's going on with everybody in their homes, a very different pre-draft process, what an advantage the Eagles have that not only do they have continuity between the GM, the quarterback, the head coach, the system, but 3 other teams in the NFC East all have new head coaches this year.
Yeah, and I think ultimately that's going to take place on the field as well. Those guys obviously a little bit behind the 8 ball in terms of implementing their new schemes on both sides of the ball. But just think about this weekend. Everybody's remote. It's a little bit uncomfortable for some teams. If you don't have that continuity, if you're not all completely in lockstep and having done this for years together like the Eagles have with Howie Roseman and Doug Peterson and everybody down off of that, there might be a little bit shaky. So I think the Eagles absolutely, especially when you look at this NFC East, a huge advantage, just at least going into this weekend.
Well, we know there are sure to be some technical difficulties throughout this entire process, so it is going to be a draft unlike any other, and I think it's pretty exciting. And, of course, I'm sure we will be here to be rolling with the punches as well. And let me remind everyone before you get out of here that we will be right back here at pick number 10 to be taking your Facebook questions. As soon as the pick is made, we will be back here for instant analysis to break it all down. That's on PhiladelphiaEagles.com, the Eagles mobile app, and all of our social channels. And, of course, throughout the entire weekend, Dave Spadaro will be bringing exclusive interviews. Ross Tucker will be bringing analysis. And then at the end of the night, we will have the press conferences, whether it's Howie Roseman, Doug Peterson, Andy Weidel, whoever it is. We will be carrying those live for you here as well. Tons of exclusive stuff for Eagles fans. And if you don't already have the Eagles mobile app, be sure to download it because we've got some really fun polls for you throughout the weekend from our friends at NovaCare Rehabilitation. So lots of fun stuff to keep you occupied during this very exciting draft time, a draft like no other. All right, it is time. We will see you right back here at pick number 10.